All right, maybe it was just me, but back in 2016, no matter how healthy I was or how much I worked out, the one thing that for the life of me, I could not get myself to do was run. Without fail, in the first 15 seconds of a run, I would start hyperventilating. I could not figure out how to breathe. And by the time the first mile had gotten there, I had already stopped to walk at least once. Running seemed to be one of these things where no matter how healthy or fit I was, running itself was always hard. It was always a challenge. It was never fun. I never wanted to show up for it, but something in me weirdly really wanted to be a runner. Something in me was drawn to the sport, yet I could never get myself to kind of meet myself at that point. Fast forward many years later, I have now not only brainwashed myself into loving running, but I have ran several marathons, several half marathons, and I do genuinely love getting up to run every single day because it is one of my favorite things. I would love to tell you that this happened naturally and easily, and one night I just woke up and loved running, but truth be told, I trained myself to love running and I tricked my brain into loving it well before my body was able to run easily. So today, I'm gonna walk you through my top tips to brainwash yourself into loving running so that every single run isn't a chore for you to do anymore. Before we get into the actual tips, it's important to understand that when you actually enjoy doing something, you are exponentially more likely to show up for it. While anyone could show up and just get the run over with for the day, we're not actually focused on just getting it over with. We're focused on showing up and genuinely enjoying our time while we're running. This means that running isn't just another box to check off during your day. Instead, we want to focus on creating a positive relationship with running. Something that I always heard back when I didn't like to run was that running isn't actually a physical issue, it's a mental issue. If you're someone who has a certain level of physical health already in place, meaning you go to the gym, you work out, you show up at least a couple times a week and you push yourself, you are physically able to run. It's your mind that's the problem. When we're running or we're doing any sort of physically painful or monotonous task, our mind gets bored and it looks for ways where it can get out of that boredom. It'll start to tell you you're too tired, or it'll fixate on your breathing patterns or a dull pain in your legs that you didn't even know existed. It makes you think that you're physically in not a good enough shape to keep running, when in reality, your body is fine, but your mind doesn't want to keep going. Which is why the key things you need to do in order to start loving running all involve changing your brain, not your body. Number one, we have to reassociate running as a positive. Neuro-linguistic programming is a communication and behavioral model that explores the connection between neurological processes, language, and behavioral patterns. Neuro-linguistic programming is used to describe how our mind thinks of something and how we can use our mind and how our mind thinks in order to change how we feel towards something. The key idea is that if we can change how we feel towards something, we are more likely to actually show up for that thing. So if you feel happy or engaged while you're running, you are more likely to show up and go on that run. If your body associates running with pain or struggle or anxiety, chances are you're always going to need to apply discipline in order to get yourself to even take the first step. Which is why the key thing that you're going to have to do when it comes to changing how you feel about running involves taking your emotions and your feelings into your own control and starting to pair them with positives while you run. One of the key things that distinguishes some of your happiest and worst memories is your heightened state of emotion at that time. The heightened state of emotion allows that moment to stand out and be something that you either look back on with fondness or you look back on and say, hope that never happens again. We want to create that feeling of fondness and positivity with running, which means when you go on a run, we need to start to intentionally create a heightened state of emotion inside of you. Now, in the beginning, this can be very difficult because while you're on the run, your brain is already primed to think the run is going to suck, that it's not going to be fun, that you're not going to want to show up for it. The exercise for you is to start to learn how to control your attention and focus it on where you want to be. When I first started running, every single step I took felt like I was running a marathon. My brain didn't naturally think that I was having a good time, and it definitely didn't have any positive emotions associated with what I was doing. So instead, I started to focus my energy on things that made me feel positive, that created those emotions in my body while I was running. I would think about things like being on the boat in the summertime and water skiing, which was something that just made me feel so, so happy. And as I was running, I would focus on how it felt when I was behind the boat on the water ski, going back and forth, the sun was shining down on me, and I allowed myself to actually generate that emotion of happiness, of bliss, of summer, of just freedom in my body. But it was while I was running. I would also do things like find some of my favorite songs that really just lit me up, made me super happy, made me want to get up and dance, made me want to sing in my car, and I would put them on a playlist, and I'd only allow myself to listen to this playlist when I went for a run, which meant that I was always looking forward to listening to those songs. I already knew those songs inspired some kind of emotion or excitement inside of me that was rather positive. And so while I was running, I was thinking about all these things that made me happy. Every time I slipped and I started thinking about, ugh, this sucks and my legs hurt and my breath is horrible, I would bring myself back to that place on the water ski, feeling so happy, feeling so excited. And I would start to listen to the words of the playlist that I was listening to that I never got to listen to because I only allowed myself to listen to such good songs while I ran. I would literally be focusing every single part of my mind on things like gratitude and joy and excitement. And I would even sometimes pretend as I was running that I was just having so much fun. I would literally repeat phrases in my head like, this is incredible, I love running, this is so much fun. And it would feel kind of fake at first, but funny enough, after even the first 2 weeks of doing this rather consistently on very short runs, I started to notice there was a part of me that wanted to come back to the run. It wanted to listen to the playlist, it wanted to feel happy, it wanted a time to just daydream about all the good things in my life. Running became this kind of silo and this sacred space where good feelings lived. But I had to create those good feelings before they actually came naturally. And that's what you're going to do. First, I want you to start by creating a playlist for yourself that is only for when you run. And I want you to put your literal favorite songs, the songs that you always want someone to play in the car, the first songs that you go to when you are going to your playlist, any of the songs that make you happy, inspire joy, make you excited, make you want to get up and dance, make you just want to move. I want you to put those songs on that playlist and exercise a level of discipline over the next couple of weeks where you only allow yourself to listen to that music and those songs while you are on your run. Second, I want you to think of some of the happiest moments in your life. Maybe you're like me and it's summertime behind a boat, or maybe you love the winter, or maybe there's just a memory or something coming up that you're so excited about. Maybe you just want to think about being on a plane, looking down with the sun setting in the sky, whatever it is that makes you so excited and so inspired, and whatever it is that you honestly daydream about, I want you to start to bring those moments in during your run. And I would even create a list of them on your phone of moments that inspire joy. You can call it moments that inspire joy, and go through those moments as you are running. Force yourself to get in the moment. Force yourself to feel what it would feel like if you were in that scenario right now, and start to allow those feelings of positivity to couple with your run. And finally, start to use your runs as a time where you can bring gratitude and joy in. If you don't have a gratitude practice, or you've never had an intentional gratitude practice before, this is actually perfect for you, because while you're running, you're gonna start to learn how to have gratitude, and that gratitude is gonna then be associated with running in the future, which is gonna make you that much more likely to show up for your run and to crave your run in the long term. Before you get all overwhelmed thinking, oh, that sounds like so much mental energy, I can't even imagine doing that, the coolest thing about all of the things that I'm sharing with you is that it's kind of like Pavlov's dogs. Right now, and for the next couple of weeks, if you show up consistently, this is gonna take a lot of energy and effort, and it's not gonna feel very natural. But if you can get through the first couple of weeks doing this and really exercising your mind when it comes to running, you are going to have an innate response to every single run where your mind just starts to go into this positive, happy, grateful space as you run, which means this mental energy you're putting in right now, it's not always gonna be there. It's just what you have to do to get over the hump. Next, we're gonna start to trick your brain in a more tangible sense. Sometimes thinking about happy things and having great music isn't enough. So what do? We create milestones for your brain so that when it gets bored or it thinks, oh my God, we have 10 more minutes of this, how in the world are we gonna keep going? You have something else to focus on. Now, this is a pretty common practice where you can start to use milestones as every half mile, quarter mile, 10th a mile that you're running, or you can use it as just like the tree or the bench or the lake that you're running to. The key to make milestones work is not to just use the milestone or have a distance that you're trying to get to and then give yourself another one. It's actually to have something change at that milestone. So if you were running and you were gonna set a milestone as this bench that you were running to, once you get to the bench, it's not good enough to just run to the bench and then be like, okay, now I have to run to the tree. Instead, at the bench, we want something to change, and it can change for the worse, meaning something can get harder, or it can change for the best, meaning something can get easier. Once you get to the bench, you can intentionally change your pace, make it faster or slower. You can turn off your music or switch what you're listening to or turn a new song on that you're really excited to listen to. You can change what you're thinking about and start to focus on a different idea or different thing or different moment or memory. You can start to focus on a different form of gratitude, or you can allow your brain the freedom to just stop thinking altogether. But the key then is that once you get to the next milestone, you give yourself something different to focus on. One of my favorite ways to do this is to set a specific distance that I'm going to be running, and then for every kind of chunk of that distance, I just play with one of these factors. So maybe on that day, we're focusing on pace. In that first half mile, I'm running pretty slow. Then I'm getting incrementally faster for a couple of the half miles. And then once I have ran 2 miles, I'll start to bring it back down and I'll do kind of like a faster, slower type of deal. If that's not distracting enough, I will maybe bring in some music where there's particular songs that I like more than other songs, and I only listen to them when I have specific time chunks that I am running. And sometimes when things are really hard, I'll bring in all of these different ways and things that I know make running easier for me or harder for me, and I'll just play with what I focus on. One of the hardest runs I ever did was a 20-mile run on a treadmill after going out the night before because it was pouring rain outside and I just could not bring myself to get outside and run. During these 20 miles, the only way that I made it through was by having snacks that I would eat after certain mile markers on the treadmill, varying what I was listening to between podcasts, music, TV on the treadmill, and nothing. Having issues or things that were going on in my personal life where I wasn't allowed to obsess or ruminate over them except for in certain time periods of the run, and forcing myself during other time periods to focus on joy and gratitude and how good it would feel when I actually ran the marathon. Obviously, this is a rather specific instance, but I am telling you, if you can learn the skill of how to trick your brain, especially while doing very monotonous and physically painful tasks, you are going to be invincible. You will have every skill you will ever need. You will be able to complete everything you ever want to complete, because learning how to trick your brain and trick your brain's focus, especially during long periods of time, is really the key to achieving anything. And the last big tip I have that really helped me in the very beginning of when I was running is to give myself a treat and only let myself have that treat if I complete what I said I will complete. So for me, the treat that I used was coffee. I loved coffee, and at the time, if I did not have a cup of coffee, I would get a migraine and I would be out for the rest of the day, which I knew was very bad. So when I would go on a run, or I would set myself up to run that day, I would give myself the amount of miles that I was going to run, and I would tell myself, if you walk or even stop at a stoplight, if you're not like jogging in place at that stoplight, you don't get the coffee. So you have to complete, let's say 3 miles. And if you complete those 3 miles without walking, then you get your coffee for the day. But if you walk or you stop or you take a break at any point during those 3 miles, then you don't get the coffee. And the thing is, I knew that I would honor that very distinct set of rules I gave myself. I would bring discipline to that set of rules. And because of that, and because I didn't want to get a migraine, I would make myself show up and I would run the entire thing. Even if I was running at a snail's pace, I would just slow myself down, slow enough where I could keep going. And I know this might sound psychotic to so many people, but because I really wanted to love running, and because I knew my brain was really the thing that was hurting me with this, I knew that I needed to create a very clear distinction and and a very clear reward so that every time I ran, I would have a reason not to stop. Because in the moments that I wanted to stop, I could think of 1,000 reasons why I should stop. I needed a reason not to stop. And this is the thing with anything you do in life. If you don't have a reason not to stop, you're gonna stop. You're not gonna keep showing up. You're gonna think of a reason why you should give yourself a break today, or you're tired, you didn't sleep that well, you had a late night, you had a test that night, you have something going on today, there's a big thing with work going on. You'll think of 1,000 reasons not to actually finish the run, to walk instead of finish the run, to just not even start or show up at all, which means we have to create that incentive for ourselves. The key is this only works if you actually hold to whatever incentive you put in place. So if you tell yourself you only get coffee if you finish the run and don't walk at all, then you don't finish the run, but you still give yourself a coffee. It doesn't work. It's just not gonna happen. The incentive has to be meaningful enough, and you have to know you're going to honor and abide by it. And that becomes kind of like the boundary or the rule or the pact that you make with yourself in order to get yourself to continue to show up. These were my key things that I did when I first really hated running. And while I will say it was difficult to apply discipline, even to get my brain to focus on the positives or not give myself a coffee until after the run was over, it was really helpful because what I learned during this time was that I had a lot of discipline in some areas of my life, but I had next to no discipline when it came to my mind, what I thought about, or where I kind of went when I was doing something. And so by learning to really control my mind and control where my attention and focus went, and learning to control my emotions and how I felt about certain things, I started to have a lot more of a deep relationship with myself and how I worked. And it actually started to help me do better in other areas. That semester that I started running was also the semester that I had gotten the best grades I had yet. And it was the first semester where I started to put some stuff in place that led me to getting my dream consulting job and allowed me really to just turn everything going on in my college career around. I'm a firm believer that running is such a keystone habit and a life-changing thing, mainly because it's how we start to train our brain and teach our brain that we are in control, not it. And so it's not surprising for me when people start running and then start to see a bunch of different areas of their life take off or start to do better, just because that momentum that we create when we run around how we focus our attention and what we demand of ourselves starts to show us what else is possible everywhere else. So take these tips and over the next 2 to 3 weeks, try them out every time you go for a run or even do something you just don't usually like to do, and just see how things change and how your relationship to that thing changes as a result. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.